Do you want to give a call to a one Jaime Moreno and let him know?
Do I need to? Because I don't think he'd care very much. I think
I don't know.
he'd probably find a
Maybe
way. Let me ask you, what do you know about this going into it?
zero. I know the only thing I know about Jaime Moreno is that he played for DC during the DC era.
It has a very, very important connection that DC link does. What
Well,
a
I'll find
time.
out.
What a time this was. So I was only 5 when this took place, so I never experienced it firsthand. However, the stories about this man in a Metro uniform are something else. A big shout out to our friends at metrofanatic.com who have done a ton of really good background on him. Uh, but overall, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the background of Jaime Moreno. Bolivian striker who was the first Bolivian to play in the Premier League when he was signed with Middlesbrough in 1994. He played 20 games and scored 1 goal before MLS went ahead and signed him to a contract before the 1996 season. He was a part of the allocation draft and given to DC United. The second he stepped foot in this league, he was a killer, and his trophy cabinet proves it. Leading up to 2002, which is when this story takes place, 2002, 2003, he had 1 Golden Boot, 1 MVP, 3 MLS Cups, 2 Supporter Shields, 2 Open Cups, and a CONCACAF Champions Cup. He would go on to add 1 more MLS Cup, 2 more Supporter Shields, and another Open Cup before his time in DC was over. He scored 152 times for DC United, 84 of them through the 2002 season. But then drama happens. In 2002, one Ray Hudson was magisterially appointed as the manager of DC United. These two, it's safe to say, did not pass the vibe check. After playing a few games for Ray Hudson, he basically begged for his way out of DC, and the single baldest manager in MLS, Michael Bradley's dad, Bobby B, sent one of the biggest trade deals in MLS history to get him. Eddie Pope, Richie Williams, and Jaime Moreno were sent to the Red Bulls, or Metro at the time, while Mike Petke, a 2003 first round draft pick, and what was called an allocation at the time, which was basically a roster spot that was valued at a certain dollar amount, whether it be 150K, 75K, whatever, that usually was used to sign a player from overseas. Kind of like allocation money now, but just a roster spot instead. That all went back to DC United. A little bit of digging found that the first round draft pick turned into David Stokes, a defender from UNC who played 24 times and retired 5 years later. I cannot find out who the allocation was spent on, but it could have been, based off of quick research, Galen Ivanov, Alessio Quintanilla, Henry Zambrano, or Milton Reyes. All of these names I don't necessarily remember, which means we probably got the better end of the deal, right? A guy who scored over 150 times, plus one of the best center backs in the league, plus Richie Williams. And we lost Mike Petke, but that's okay because we probably balanced it out, right? Come on. What team are we talking about here? You know it couldn't be that easy. Metro fans, as you would expect, were excited but cautious to welcome somebody who tormented their club for years into their ranks. He scored 16 times in 6 years against the Metro until the trade, so they were right to do that. And this is where Metro get Metro. Jaime Moreno showed up to preseason that year, the most unfit you could ever imagine. Like the level of unfit you would expect at a Sunday league. He played 3 total times before pulling his hamstring, missing 7 games, and then finally working his way back into his side. He never got more than 60 minutes in a game. In the span of 9 games, he scores twice, including once to beat DC United. But then he re-aggravates his injury and is shut down for the rest of the year to do rehab. As the offseason comes and goes, the players are ready and they're getting ready to show up, take another run at the cup, really go after it as a group. Day one, morning huddle. Welcome to the club. Players look around and somebody's missing. You guessed it. Jaime Moreno chose not to show up to day one of preseason. The dude sat around all offseason, did zero rehab, got even more unfit, and then refused to show up to preseason camp. This whole time, he's crying back to DC United to find a way to get him back. He refused to take a pay cut. Metro had to take him off the books. They were losing massive money in a very, very hard salary cap league. So they put another trade in. In 2004, a first and third round draft pick was sent to the Red Bulls for Jaime Moreno. Now, of course, I know you're wondering, well, what did they get out of these draft picks? Well, they found a way to Metro up these draft picks even worse than this trade. So let's start with that the first round pick. They traded the first round pick that they had gotten in this trade for Joselito Vaca in 2004 to FC Dallas. So FC Dallas had this pick. They got Joselito Vaca in return. And then Metro, like, you know what? We actually want that pick back. So they found a way to trade for the pick they already had, get it back, and they sent Cornell Glenn the other way. So basically, they just flip-flopped Vaca for Glenn. Vaca played 22 times for Red Bull, scoring once and being released at the end of the year. Cornell Glenn made 0 appearances for Dallas before going to Columbus. So, speechless at the fact that this was the most unnecessary series of trades I've ever seen in my life. But anyways, the pick ended up being Tim Ward, who played 13 total times for Metro before going to Columbus. So basically, the only team that benefited from this entire switching of picks, players, money was the Columbus Crew, because they've got 2 players out of it who played a good amount of time for them, and the Metro and FC Dallas got nothing. The third round pick turned into Chris Corcoran, who amassed a total of 0 minutes for the Metro and is currently playing on a team in Finland's second division to this day. So all in all, massive waste of time. Jaime Moreno and DC United screwed over the Metro, and you'd think that's where it ends, right? And to that, I laugh at you, Connor Wright. I laugh in your face when you think that's the end of this story. As soon as he stepped back in the nation's capital, I mean, like the microsecond he crossed state lines, all of his problems magically disappeared. He would go on to play basically every single minute for the rest of his 7-year career for DC United after not being able to get more than 60 minutes a game at Metro. He played until 2010, scoring 7 goals and 7 assists against the Metro in this time frame. Because of this inability to actually give a damn about playing for the New York, New Jersey Metro, people believe that this was actually just a massive behind-the-scenes plot to put the Metro behind the 8. Our friends at Metro Fanatic listed him as the worst South American to ever play for the New York Metro, gave him an honorable mention as the 2000 to 2009 Bum of the Decade, and based off of their writing about him, he can best be described by one poetic phrase. Yes, he is still a fat bastard. Was this a way for DC United to get one over on their I-95 rivals? Maybe. Did Jaime Moreno do the best to make a fool out of the entire organization? Arguably. But what is clear to this day is that this has to be listed in one of the top 5 That's So Metro moments of all times. And it's what makes our club so dang special. And that's why I love it.
I love that they had a whole ranking on just bum of the decade.
Oh, that list is fantastic. I'll send you that in a minute.
Who won? Do you remember?
It was Alexi Lawless, because he was the GM of that time, or he took over in 07 and led them to the 09, which is the worst, like 3rd worst season in league history or something like that. Yeah. Alexi Lawless is bum of the decade.
He was your, dare I say, Isaiah Thomas, if you remember his era with the Knicks.
Yes, he tore up the
Phenomenal
foundation.
player, and then took over in like a back office role and absolutely just destroyed teams.
Yep. He tore up the foundation built by Bob Bradley, putting the club into a pit of despair. It is still not fully recovered. This was posted in 2009. Still has not fully recovered from, oh, and when the going gets tough, he lied through his teeth and quit. Bum. On there were Steve Shack, Mamadou Diallo, great. Met the entire Metro front office. Jaime Moreno's in there. Sergio. Oh, Galvin Ray's in there. Okay. Mark the Grand Prix. Interesting. Claudio Reyna. Nice. Um, Juan Carlos Osorio. Cool. Jeff Agus. Nice. Lots of good names on there.
That's a big list.
Oh, yeah. Those are all honorable mentions, but Alexi Lawless was head above heels for that one.
Maybe we'll have to deep dive into that one at some point. I'd like to hear about that. His tenure in charge.
I feel
Just
like we could do a whole our entire book. We could put 4 chapters into really poorly run organizations.
well, I want
Chivas
to.
USA at the top of it.
I mean, yeah, there's a number you could tack on every team that folded, but I really want to hear about Lawless's time in charge of Red Bull. It sounds like a magical time, and
It looks like a
I
2009 thing, so we can add it on the list.
we should add it on the list. I'd like to hear you rant about it because I think it would be hilarious, honestly.
I'd have to reach out to our friends at Metro Fanatic and get their insight on it.
Yes. Maybe we can it'd be even more great if we got them to collaborate on it. That'd be cool.
Ooh, that would be cool.